Welcome to another episode of The Quantum Human, Expanding Multidimensional Awareness. In this episode, we are talking about the amazing astrological alignments that are occurring, that are assisting us to take a leap in consciousness, a quantum leap in consciousness. Peter Tung is here, and he works really closely and thoroughly and completely with the gene keys. He's going to share what the gene keys are and actually what's happening right now on the planet and how we're being supported. Hi, Peter. Thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Lauren, it's always a pleasure to be with you. And this is a pretty exciting episode, I can tell you.
We are already feeling the energies of this year, and we're going to talk about what's been going on. For those who don't know the gene keys or much about them, can you give us a brief synopsis of why they're important in our life?
Absolutely, yes. So the gene keys came through a gentleman called Richard Rudd, English gentleman, and he had a 3-day experience where he was in an altered state, and he was shown how the I Ching connected to these gene keys. So the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching correspond to the 64 gene keys. So it's like a westernized interpretation of the I Ching through a slightly different approach. And so these 64 keys are our own internal genetic code. And through the moment of your birth, you have 11 gene keys, which are specifically designed for your own awakening in this lifetime. It's your internal genetic code. And so when you look at your own personal profile, the profile tells you really clearly what it is you need to clear from the shadow frequencies to shift into the so-called gift frequencies, where you can now live your life in a sense of satisfaction and contentment. And if you're really lucky, then the higher frequency so-called siddhis, the divine essences, will start to descend upon you. And you start having these wonderful glimpses of peace, of harmony, of joy, of bliss, of ecstasy even. And what we mustn't do is try and figure them out, try and interpret them, because they'll just go away straight away. So if you find yourself in that state of bliss, you just allow it to be there and to saturate you with it, every cell of your body. And so the gene keys is a way to navigate your way through your life very safely by recognizing the shadow or lower frequencies that we carry, which is where we get triggered in life, and really resolving them. And the process is through the gene keys, very safely going beyond those shadows and into these gifts, and then living your life in those gifts. And it takes us very safely into this future self, which is upon us right now, which is why we're doing this today, because what's been happening over the last 5 weeks has been remarkable. And as you said, Lauren, I tie together what's happening energetically with the astrological alignments and which gene keys are involved.
It's so fascinating that it has been simplified, our journey of ascension, looking at our shadow to just see where we can clear, and we don't have to go it alone. This is something that opens our eyes even more to why we're triggered in the ways. And everyone wants bliss. Everyone wants this. So for those who've had sessions with you, and I'm one of them, they are remarkable. They are really straight to the point, and it's very interesting. And it is really a roadmap of the work that we're here to do. It really is. It's marvelous. So for all of those who have their profile, and we can just go get online, go get your own profile and look at it here. But if you have not had a personal session with Peter, get a personal session. They are amazing. You can record it because you will want to go back. But right now, we're going to talk about what's been going on. Here we are. Wow, the start of this year, we've really been feeling it. And the astrological movements are definitely supporting us. There's big stuff going on. Share with us what's been going on and how it relates now.
Big stuff indeed, yeah. So what I want to do is take us back about 5 weeks and bring us forward up to the present. And I'll include what happened astrologically and the gene keys involved, so people can begin to see how they tie together. So we're going back to the weekend of January 2021. And on that weekend, Pluto the planet of transformation, was hovering at the last few minutes of Capricorn, 29 degrees, 58 minutes. You can't get any later than that. So Pluto has been moving through Capricorn since 2008. And its job is to transform all of the old structures. We're talking about the financial system, the medical system, the education system, every single system which is now outdated and defunct. And so Pluto started, and that was that, if you remember, 2008 was when that first crash happened in the housing market in the US. That was the beginning of this shift. Pluto is very slow moving, so it's taken all this time since 2008 to get to the end of Capricorn. So on that weekend, this remarkable thing happened. And that was with Pluto sitting at that last minute of Capricorn, the sun came into a conjunction with it. So the sun is now illuminating Pluto. Pluto is the underworld. It doesn't like to be seen. So now the sun was forcing Pluto out into the light. All the secrecy and all that stuff we've been dealing with coming to complete exposure. At the same time, Pluto is transforming the sun. So it's important for people to understand we are now under a new sun. The sun itself has been raised in consciousness. And that all took place on that January 2021 weekend. So then the question becomes, which gene key did that take place in? And it took place in the 60th gene key, the shadow of which is limitation. So all the limitations that's been placed upon us in our lives and over this last 4 years is what's been holding us back. So that moment in time, as that shift took place from Capricorn into the next sign, Aquarius, was saying, okay, where am I still connected to any of the old systems? Because I've got to let them go. And as you said earlier, Lauren, we all want to move into this new earth energy. And what's in control of that new earth energy is the word freedom. Freedom is what we really seek. Well, when we're stuck in limitations from external authority, then we are trapped. So now what we need to do is to set ourselves free from any old habits that we have. It doesn't mean we get rid of all of them, but we have to assess each one. Which ones of my habits are good for my physical existence? Which ones just bring me pleasure? And which ones am I just doing because I've always done them? So we've got to make a conscious decision of what brings me freedom and what keeps me trapped. So that's what that energy was about. And then over that weekend, on the Monday, the 22nd of January, the sun then moved on. And the next gene key is the 41st gene key. And the 41st gene key is the only start codon of all 64 keys. This means it starts something off brand new. So now the sun, having gone through its transformation with Pluto, is now opening the door, the gate to a brand new way of being in the world through the new expression of the sun beaming down upon us. Okay, so that's that first step. Now, what I hadn't realized back then was that Pluto is so slow moving, it's still at 0 degrees. So it's still sitting in that gate, that 60th gene key, line 4, is actually the heart chakra. So then what happened was on February the 4th, Mercury came into that gateway with Pluto. So Mercury conjunct Pluto. So Mercury is all about our thinking, our beliefs, our communication. So they were now being transformed. And then Mercury moved into the 41st gene key. So it's now our new way of thinking, our new way of working things out, our new way of communicating. Lauren, this is just amazing, right? So now Mars comes into that conjunction with Pluto on the 13th of February. So now it's about our action in the world and our work. What needs to be transformed there? Then Mars moves into the 41. new ways of acting and being in the world. Then on the 16th, Venus comes into that gateway. Venus is all about our values, our relationships, our money. So now Venus is being transformed. Then she moves into the 41. So this is just me now. This is not an astrological expert. This is just me and the way I see things. But I feel that Pluto was literally sitting in that portal gateway and keeping it wide open as each of the personal planets did like a procession through that gate to relieve all of the old stuff to bring us into freedom. So it's basically saying to us, and it's still happening, so it's not too late. So we've got to make real clear choice points around everything in our life. And because the new earth is about freedom, we need to ask ourselves, where do I feel that I am not free? Where do I feel that I am not free? Where do I feel trapped or frozen? Because freedom is an internal thing. It's not an external thing. So then, and the moon was involved as well, somewhere in there. So the moon came through as well. So it's about our feeling, everything, all about the personal planets came through that gateway. Now, I know we're past it, but I'm going to come back now to the 19th of February, because on that day, the sun moved into the 55th gene key. And the 55th gene key is the gene key of the age of Aquarius. And the shadow is victimization. And both the gift and the siddhi are freedom. And this is when the sun moved out of Aquarius into Pisces. So before that day, before the 19th, we had what's called a stellium of 5 planets all in Aquarius. So all this Aquarian energy was being amped up for us to set ourselves free. And then on the 19th, the sun goes into Pisces, where the 55th gene key begins its illumination. And Pisces is all about dreaming the new Eden. It's about us dreaming into our future self what we truly want, which is our freedom. Because what we really seek in the world is freedom from our suffering. That's really what this is about. And sadly, we often go after it in the wrong way by trying to push and force and make. And that doesn't work. Freedom is about relaxing and allowing and flowing. And one of the most important things that I do in our sessions is to help people understand this isn't about pushing. It isn't trying to make things happen. It's not about ambition in the world. It's about relaxing and flowing and being in joy and playfulness and recognizing that we're on this amazing grail quest and we are the fools starting out on our journey. And it's to be played, it's to be fun. And that's where this is taking us right now. And you've got that beautiful background behind you. You've got that forest of Mother Earth holding this sacred space for us. And I'll come back to that later. So when we're in the 55th gene key, this wonderful thing happened. And that was on Tuesday, the 20th of February. And so I mentioned that Mars and then Venus came through that gateway. Then on the 20th, they came into a precise conjunction in that 41st gene key. So now then, just think about this. Mars and Venus conjunct. Mars represents the masculine. Venus represents the feminine. And they are literally on top of each other. They're in conjunction. In the 41st gene key, which is the new way of being in the world, the start codon. So this is what I'm saying. And again, this is just me. This is the alchemical marriage within. This is where we bring our masculine and feminine into perfect alignment. Now, as you know, I've practiced alchemy at the actual physical furnace. And so I'll just explain that from the alchemical perspective to see how it translates into us inside. So in the actual real alchemy, which is an actual real activity, which is extremely dangerous, working with boiling metals and minerals, What you have to do is you have to marry the king with the queen. The king is philosophical gold, and the queen is not silver, it's philosophical mercury. And you take these two in the furnace and you marry them together. And the marriage creates what we would call the androgynous child, or the Christ child in the cradle, or the birth of Christ consciousness within. So again, it's not too late because we're heavily steeped in these energies. But what we've got the opportunity to do now is to marry ourselves, to bring our masculine and feminine into a balanced harmony so that they merge into unity consciousness. They become one. So we no longer see them as separate. And then we're birthing that inner child back out into the world. And this is now where we're going to live our lives according to being in freedom. And we're going to pay attention to whenever we're playing the role of the victim. And we know when we are, whenever we are blaming, complaining, or comparing. And we all do it, we're all human. So we catch ourselves in those moments. We pause, we breathe, and we pivot out. So whatever we're complaining or blaming about, we take full responsibility in our own hearts. And that's what leads to our inner freedom. So we all have this opportunity to marry ourselves. And you may have a beloved partner as well, and that's fine. But this is about our inner journey and how we are now birthing ourselves. This is a rebirthing situation. The 55th gene key connects to the 49th gene key, which is the ring together is called the ring of the whirlwind. And the 49th gene key is the gene key of rebirth. So everything is being stirred up. And actually, Richard calls it a nuclear explosion because we go into this state of instability. So just imagine you are now letting go of all the old things that you used to hold dear. And that can be a very scary place because that's where our egoic identity resides. But we can't hang on to that if we want to set ourselves free. And people think they want to step into their higher self. But it's much harder than people think because you've got to let go of all that egoic stuff. You've got to let go of your old identity to set yourself free. And what I'm noticing with my sessions is if you're not prepared to do that, you're forced to. So people get fired in their job and I say, congratulations, because it needed to happen, because you had to let go of that old identity and step into the new you. So many people, as you know, Lauren, from your experiences, really gifted spiritual people are scared to step into their truth and hold on to their old mundane job for what they think is financial safety and security. And it's really sad. And I really encourage them to make that step out. I'm sure you've got a lot of background in understanding that.
Oh my goodness. We just did a workshop this weekend where people were stepping into this new role. And so your sense of what is going on is spot on with all of us.
Yep.
And it's interesting. Someone was just asking me the other day, is this still relevant, the masculine and the feminine? And absolutely, based on what you're saying, this is a time to really work on that masculine and feminine. So as we are marrying that within ourselves, I'm going to ask a heady question. What does that look like? Is it simply looking at when we're playing the victim, when we're complaining or blaming? And so marrying the masculine and the feminine within us, what is your concept of how we do that?
Great question. So because we've all, our generation of and the kids too, that they've grown up with an overemphasis on the masculine mind and all the logical, sequential way of operating in the world. And as you said, this particular summit is all about taking that quantum leap. But you can't take a quantum leap if you're stuck in that 3D analytical mind. So the merging of the masculine and feminine for me, and I'm an old guy from the old school, so I'm having to learn this big time, is allowing the feminine intuition to lead the way and the masculine to carry it out on her behalf. I see it. It reminds me, it's actually in the 21st gene key, which is called Valor. And it reminds me of the Knights of the Round Table, going back to Avalon. And back in those days, the feminine priestesses knew what needed to be done. And they would intuitively know, and they would drop their handkerchief on the ground, and a knight would come along and scoop it up and go and do her bidding. So the feminine led the way through her intuitive knowing, and the masculine carried it out on her behalf. So that's what I see is required. And obviously, some of the people that you're connected with have got too strong a feminine side. So they've got to now step into reality of how do I make this happen in form? And then the masculine side is saying, I've got to listen more to the feminine here. I've got to tune in to what she wants me to know and be. So we've got to go into this very deep inner listening. And so we just find this balance point between the two, letting the feminine lead and the masculine follow. And then we've got to catch ourselves whenever the masculine mind tries to discount the feminine intuition. One of the gene keys, the 17th gene key, is about farsightedness. And what I found with people who have that gene key is they have this gift of knowing what's going to happen in the future, but then their mind discounts it. It analyzes it away. And so, again, we've got to become really aware of whenever our masculine mind is trying to discount the feminine, because it's been in charge throughout our lives. And that's, again, part of the letting go of the masculine control mechanism, the egoic mind.
Okay, the egoic mind. Free your mind, the rest will follow. Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, so wonderful. So here we are, dreaming the new earth, dreaming the new Eden. There's a new way of, with Mars and Venus coming into the gateway as well. That's a new way of love. That's a new way of
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So are you finding people shifting in their relationships?
Oh, absolutely. Again, a lot of relationships are finishing because people are vibrating at a different frequency. And again, not all the time, but typically it's the woman who has moved into a higher frequency because she's doing the inner work, and the man is not, so he's staying in a lower vibration. So when the two come together in the same space, it doesn't work anymore. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's no one necessarily doing anything bad. Some people are, but typically that's not the reason. The reason is that there's a vibrational mismatch. And you can stay in that for a while, but eventually it gets too difficult. So that separation, sadly, needs to take place. And I really encourage people to do it, but to do it well, without, again, creating a scapegoat or a victim. We don't want to do that. We just have to acknowledge that we've reached a different place and it's okay. And we separate nicely and kindly, making sure we look after any children involved.
Yeah.
And then on the other end of that spectrum, what is happening, and I've had a number of sessions where this has happened, is sacred union couples coming together. And in the 55th gene key in Richard Rudd's book, it's the only place where he does any prophesizing about the future. And one of those prophecies is sacred union couples coming together. And my experience so far has been really interesting with those situations, because when these two people come together, this male and female energy, and it can be two men, two women, that's not it. But when you come together, it's very intense because you've got work to do together that you could not do on your own. So it's like this coming into this higher expression. But then if one of them has not done their work, they'll very quickly disappear. And someone else will come in that can match. So we're going to be going through this period of time in the future where people are going to find each other just because it happens. You can't plan it. You can't make it happen. When you've done your inner work to that right frequency, then the other person will show up. And then you have this absolutely beautiful, loving, romantic relationship, but with a bigger purpose, which is you've got something to do together you could not do on your own. So again, it's the inner and the outer reflect each other. So when you've reached your own inner balance, then you can meet the other person. Because what we don't want is the old-fashioned relationship of codependency, where there's this back and forth, push me, pull you energy of trying to keep someone energetically contained. That's also part of the trap. So again, we've got to set ourselves free from that as well. And what I've noticed is those people who've reached that level of spiritual connection actually can't live together. The energy is way too much. So they have their own separate lives where they do their own thing, but then they come together in a most magnificent, beautiful way. It's the new earth. It's what's happening. And while I mentioned the children coming in have already got their DNA activated. They are already enlightened beings. And so we've now got to pay attention to the children because they're already at that level. And we don't want to put them on a pedestal either. We don't want to make them into little Buddhas. We don't want that. We want to treat them exactly the way they should be treated, with cherishing and nourishing and loving and supporting, but still being the parent, where we've got to have clear boundaries and structure so that they can create their own playfulness within the structure. But children should be allowed to play. And so many of them have lost the way to play because of all the computer stuff and the way the school system works. Yes. We don't want that type of structure. We want to have a structure within which they're free to play.
Well, it's exciting because the New Earth leaders that I work with, when we talk about stepping into your role, getting your business up and running, how we even identify that, when we do start to look at what someone loves to do based on their passion and their skills as well, so many have great opportunities and joy working with children. And so these are going to be the new structures that come in, maybe into the schools or just parallel to the schools, like after school programs and things like this. So I really do see light workers stepping into roles like this, and meditation techniques like this will be normal in schools. Can you imagine a classroom starting their day with a meditation, or an afternoon with a meditation, or just a way teaching kids to self-regulate? So I don't want to get off topic, but I see great opportunity. So this year, as our Pluto transformation is in Aquarius, then this is a good year to really focus on what we want to bring forward in new ways, in new businesses for education, health, all of it.
So Lauren, I was smiling then because back in the day when I was the school principal, I used to have a meditation class with the grade 9s because the senior school had formal exams. And so we had those exams in late November and they came into grade 9 in September. So during that period, usually around about October, I would do a meditation with all the grade 9 kids in about 6 different classes to bring them into that place of relaxed awareness, that high focus, but in a relaxed way, and lead a meditation on that for them. So I was doing that like more than 20 years ago.
Thank goodness. And look at how that has even rippled out into their lives and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely.
See, that's so wonderful. So it's so then that's so cool. So then the rest of this year, bring us up to speed then of what we're going to move into the next few weeks and months.
Okay, so why don't you bring up the profile that I sent to you? Because the next phase, moving forward from this 55th gene key, is on February the 24th, where we have the full moon. So if you want to come just down to the 11 spheres, that's perfect, great. So again, for those people that don't know, this is a gene key profile, and you can go online to the Gene Key website, free profile, and you can find the profile for any date in the past, right up to the current, and into the future. So you'll see here, if you look at the top right-hand corner, I chose to find the profile for the full moon in Virgo, which happened on 24th of February at 4:31 a.m., and I put in my own hometown. So this is the profile. And what you'll see then is, after I talked about the 55th gene key beginning on the 19th of February, it lasts for a week of 6 days. So you'll see at the very top, the fit life's work is the 55.6. So the 0.6 is the last line of the hexagram. So the next day, it's going to move into the next gene key, which is the 37. So it will go from the 55.6 to the 37.1. So the full moon, the sun will be illuminating the 55.6, and the moon will be in the opposite sign, which is Virgo, and that's where the 59.6 will be. So the life's work and the evolution are what are called programming partners. They are opposites to each other. They work against you in the shadow, and they work together in the gift and the siddhi. So now then, what's really neat about this, having spent the week dreaming the new Eden in the 55th gene key, we come to the end of that week, and the 59th gene key is the Virgo gene key. So this gives us the opportunity to ground the energy into form, because Virgo is the Mother Earth energy. So instead of the dream being some fantastical woo-woo out there, incredible potential, which never manifests, we have this opportunity to bring it to Earth. So again, it's by the time this broadcast comes out, we're still going to be in the force field of that full moon. So I really recommend then that people dream their dream and then go out into Mother Earth and anchor it into her physical body. Now notice the 59th gene key, the shadow is dishonesty. So as we complete this cycle with the 55 and the 59, what we're being asked to do, and this can be really challenging for some people, is who are my tribe? Who are the people who are going to lead me into this new earth energy? Who are the people that are here on the same frequency, supporting whatever I do while I'm supporting them? We have a monthly gathering of about 10 to 15 people. And we are all on the same page. We are all honoring each other. We cherish each other. There's no judgment. And we found our soul tribe. And it gives us this energetic uplift for the next month. And that's what we are now wanting to do. So it's about discernment. Who belongs and who doesn't. And so we have to make some difficult decisions. But if we really want to go into this future self, we've got to find our tribe, those people we are connected with. And then you'll see the siddhi of the 59 is transparency. Now, in Richard's book, he talks about the return of Quetzalcoatl. And this is about the phoenix rising. Quetzalcoatl is half serpent, half eagle, the feathered serpent. And this is how we bring our lower animal nature and our higher spiritual nature into harmony, which takes us back to that marriage of the alchemy, where we now bring our upper and our lower frequencies into harmony. And that comes through the 59th gene key, and then we connect back to the 55th, where we find that freedom. So I just want to comment upon a couple of other gene keys. I'm not going to talk about the whole profile, but I just want to talk about a couple of them because they're really significant. So you'll see the IQ and the EQ are both the 19th gene key. And that is because the IQ is the position of Venus and the EQ is the position of Mars. So that precise conjunction happened in the 41st gene key on Tuesday the 20th. So by the 24th, they'd both moved out of the 41, but they're still conjunct in the 19. So Mars and Venus on this full moon were still sitting together in the 19th gene key. And Venus had just gone slightly ahead of Mars because it's in the 19.3, not the 19.2. Now, this 19th gene key is, to me, one of the most magnificent gene keys you can possibly have, because it includes within it something called synesthesia. And synesthesia is when your senses cross over each other. So the most gifted student I had when I was a school principal heard the flowers open. She tasted color. Mm. And so people with this gene key have this expanded extrasensory awareness, which is really hard to describe because it's different for different people. But the common thread is it gives you a deeper insight into how we can help meet the needs of the other person. So some people will feel it inside themselves when they're with someone else. Some people will smell it. Some people will taste it. Some people will see it. Some people will hear it. So I can't tell you exactly what it looks like, but I do know that this marriage of the masculine and feminine within could lead to that synesthesia. And then the other one I want to mention.
Oops, hold on.
Yeah.
There it is.
The other one I want to mention, really important, just jumping around. Oh, there we are, is the 34.5 in the vocation. Because this vocation sphere is the ancestral wounding that we've all gone through. This is where we were imprinted in our DNA from our parents. And it's the ancestral wound. And the fifth line is the shadow of guilt. So the collective shadow of this full moon was guilt. And the way we resolve guilt is through a total forgiveness process. So we need to let go of holding anything to do with the past. We got to let it go and process it out. We can't take our baggage with us into this new earth. So we create the forgiveness process and we forgive everyone who's hurt us. We forgive every situation and event that hurt us. We forgive everything that we've done to hurt others. And most importantly, we forgive ourselves for what we believe we've done to hurt others and to hurt ourselves. And that forgiveness process is what sets us free. Now, the 34th gene key, you'll see the shadow word is force. And this is a great gene key because it's the person with a beautiful, strong physical constitution. So these people don't need to be concerned about their health unless they turn it against themselves, which does happen in some cases. However, the word force means there's a strong tendency in their vocation, in their work, to try to make things happen, to force things, and it doesn't work. So the best advice I give to these people with the 34th gene key, particularly in the vocation sphere, is to stop trying and just allow everything to flow out, following the synchronicities which are showing up. Because synchronicity is becoming more and more significant when people are completely tuned into this higher frequency. So that's the energy of the full moon on the 24th, and it will still be in the 26th, still be in the force field of the full moon on the 26th. So then, another really neat thing that happens, Lauren, in this process is the 55 finishes on line 6, and then the next day we go into the 37.1. So the 55th gene key is the age of Aquarius, and the 37th gene key is the age of Pisces. And they're back to back, and it's really interesting and weird from my perspective because the sun is moving from Aquarius into Pisces, but the ages are moving in the other direction from Pisces to Aquarius. It's like the two fish passing in the night. It's the two fish of Pisces. Mm. The 37th gene key is the Christ consciousness gene key. It was the age of Pisces, which was supposed to be the birthing of Christ consciousness on the planet. but the priesthood were not prepared to relinquish authority. So when you look at Jesus and Mary Magdalene, their job was to anchor Christ's consciousness energy into the world through their sacred union. And the priesthood were not prepared to relinquish authority, so they turned her into a whore and suppressed the feminine for the whole 2,000-year period. That age is now over. The age of Pisces is closed and the age of Aquarius has begun. So now we are inviting all of the feminine principles in all of us to step up and be fully recognized for who she is. And that brings an end to the old shadow age of Pisces. And now we can step into the freedom of the Aquarian age by the feminine coming back into her rightful position. So the 26th of February, when this is being broadcast, is that key moment, that transition from Pisces to Aquarius and Aquarius to Pisces. It's like that moment in time, that choice point that we have.
That is so beautiful and really powerful. We can sense that and are feeling into it. It is amazing that we are here in that choice point for the Aquarius and Pisces. So that means surrender it all. And maybe people energetically will have to just take the day off, because it seems like energetically it might be overwhelming for people.
Yes, absolutely. And hopefully they'll have the day off and listen to the broadcast.
Wow. Okay. So, we're choosing Christ consciousness, and this is a beautiful tool that assists us in letting go and surrendering to what no longer serves. It really is quite fascinating. I really feel like these are freedom codes.
Yes, absolutely. They are.
Yeah, freedom codes.
So the other thing just to mention there, Lauren, because you've just said it, is people will often say, well, how do I get to that space? How do I find my way to freedom? Well, it's all in the 55th gene key. And Richard would say that the transmission itself does it for you, so long as you honor the inner knowings of the 55th gene key, because that is the age of Aquarius. So all we have to do actually is tune into the 55th gene key and allow it to flow through us. And that's what brings us freedom.
Can you assist us in a few moments of tuning into the 55th gene key?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we should do a little meditation.
Yes, I think that would be great. You are
Okay.
really good at this. Okay.
Okay. So make sure you're not driving or using any machinery for this. So either pull over or don't do the meditation right now. So let's just gently close our eyes. And all of the energy that we've been talking about is about this rising up and letting go of all the old energies and stepping into the new. So let's bring our focus, awareness right down into the belly. Just breathing deeply and slowly through the navel, through the belly button. One of the elements of the 55th gene key is the recognition of the incredibly powerful energy held within our solar plexus. And because of that male dominant mind, we have tended to ignore the energy of the solar plexus. It's a very complex network of nerves, of ganglia. And part of this journey now is the awakening of the emotional center in the solar plexus. So just very gently breathing through the belly, just feeling the rise and fall of your belly as you breathe slowly. And now we're just going to feel into the belly of any residual victimhood that we are carrying. Where do we feel trapped? Where do we not feel freedom in our lives? And make the commitment to ourselves to let all of that go. As Lauren said, to surrender to the truth of who you really are, what your true passion is. And remember that 59th gene key shadow is dishonesty. So we've got to be really honest with ourselves. We can't avoid the truth. And it requires us to have a deep and profound trust in our own inner self and a trust in the universal life force flow, that it is here to support us. And so just letting all of that energy flow out of you, setting you free. And you'll know when it's working because you'll feel a lightness within. And now let's think about the rising of the phoenix. So we've just taken ourselves down to the ashes, letting go of all the old stuff. And now the phoenix is rising. You're being awakened and activated into a new level of being. Your DNA inside your body is beginning to sing. You are opening up to your own inner Christ consciousness. You're beginning to soar. In Richard's book, in the 55th Gene Key, he talks about the dragonfly's dream, where the nymph of the dragonfly lives under the water and then suddenly, for some reason, comes to the surface and climbs up a stem. And then the sun illuminates the nymph, and the water inside steams, which creates a pressure which opens the body and the wings, and the dragonfly steps into its translucent self and flies away. So that's what we are doing right now. We are using all of the old stuff as our transmuting fuel to set us free so that we can soar, we can be true to ourselves. And it's the transmission of this 55th gene key that we are now in through the dragonfly's dream of setting ourselves free. Total freedom. At the same time, anchoring ourselves into Mother Earth. Because one of the most important things is we need to anchor the fifth dimensional frequencies into the earth. We're not going anywhere. We are staying here on the earth, and Mother Earth is going through her own transformation, and so is the sun. So it's really important for us to connect deeply with her, connect our belly to her belly, and bring the energies down and in from on high, bringing heaven to earth. Shambhala, Nirvana, co-creating heaven on earth. And just think for a moment how remarkable it is that you are alive on the planet at this time. How did you arrange this to be here alive on this planet as we go through this incredible transformation and transition? You chose yourself for this, and you were chosen. So really honor that within yourself and step up into the new you in this age of freedom. We do not need to be concerned about all the chaos and craziness that's taking place on the planet. That is all in self-destruct mode. We just need to focus on holding to that highest possible frequency that we can and grounding it into Mother Earth, grounding it into ourselves. So now just take a few gentle, deep breaths. Bring your focus up into your heart. in deep gratitude for this opportunity to come together in this co-creative process. Become aware of the environment around you. And when you're ready, just gently open your eyes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are feeling that beautiful gift of this incarnation here on the planet at this time. And that is inspiring. And it is why we do this work, why we do this clearing. Again, this is a beautiful tool, the gene keys that allow us to see ourselves under the microscope, to see how the stars, to see what we came in with. And it's an outside third party expression of what we can see that we may not see within ourselves. So it's wonderful. Get your personal session with Peter and you will, it is multidimensional. The awareness that it gives us it's so crystal clear, isn't it? It's so beautiful.
Lauren, I'm amazed every single day of my life when I do a session, the synchronicities that show up, it's just remarkable. And the precision. And what it does, it takes the emotional charge out of people's experiences because they realize this actually was supposed to happen. However challenging or difficult it was, this is something you chose to experience so you would grow through your own suffering, which is what this is really all about. So I do just want to, again, go forward somewhat in the next few weeks.
Please.
because the next big one for me is the equinox. And the equinox, there's a wonderful dowser in England, Rory Duff, and he has established that when we have the equinoxes and solstices, all the ley line and vortexes on the planet come into this harmonic resonant frequency. They dance together. And what is discovered is over a period of time, the frequency has gone up and it's lasted longer. So it's a really good idea to do some form of meditation out on the land itself, the most sacred place that you know, somewhere around the equinox. I know we're going to do it on St. Patrick's Day because that's the Sunday before. And we're going to go to a node point in our landscape with a group and do a group meditation to really link in with Mother Earth. So that's the next big one for me. And then probably the biggest one of the year is April the 8th, which is the total solar eclipse. Now, this is really, again, fascinating for me, looking at this journey. So the total solar eclipse comes on land in Mazatlan, Mexico. And it tracks northeast across the whole of the American continent and comes out in Newfoundland, Canada. So I find it fascinating that it starts in Mexico, finishes in Canada, and then tracks all the way across America.
Going right over Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Fantastic. So there you go. That's a really important knowing. And Hot Springs, Arkansas has got all this incredible crystal energy and the waters we know are so important. So then in 2017 was the last time we had a total solar eclipse, and it tracked in a different direction. It came on shore around Portland, Oregon, and went southeast and came out on the ocean in South Carolina. So then, looking at these two pathways of the total solar eclipses, where did they cross? And where they crossed was unbelievable. When I saw this, I couldn't believe it.
Yes.
Cairo, Illinois.
Wow.
Why on earth is there a place called Cairo in Illinois? Anyway, so that's where the two eclipses cross. So then being me, I then looked into Cairo, Illinois. And Cairo, Illinois is a pretty not much is going on there these days. However, when I looked at these images, I saw this placard. And the placard talked about Lewis and Clark, being in Cairo. And I know from my research that Thomas Jefferson was the president at the time, sent Lewis and Clark across the country, not to tell people there was a new boss in the White House, but to measure every 6 degrees of longitude going across the country and finding these spots on the landscape where people had previously been to put out these markers. And those markers include the confluence of rivers, stone circles, clusters of trees, where people marked it in a particular way. So Lewis and Clark were in Cairo, and that's where they learned longitude. And Cairo sits on what's called the third meridian. And the third meridian is a north-south line which demonstrates the boundary of Illinois. So it is a marker in the landscape. So it's not a coincidence that this eclipse is crossing that point to connect Cairo, Illinois to Cairo, Egypt. Because what I've learned in the last 6 months is Egypt, the pyramids, the temples, the statues are literally coming alive. And I've had several people tell me that they've been in the Sekhmet temple, and she is actually a living, conscious being. And I've had even further experiences. So some people have seen her moving. Yeah. Some people have seen the whole room moving like it's on a boat. But most recently, I had a woman who heard Sekhmet cackling, laughing, and the woman joined her. So what we've got to realize is these apparent inanimate objects are not. They're conscious living beings, and they are waking up. It's this rising of the phoenix. So the landscape itself is waking up and getting a little bit woo-woo, but I know lots of your listeners will know that you can see these images of faces in the trees and faces in the rocks and elemental beings in the plants and the trees. And these are all beginning to step up so we can see them because we are in a higher consciousness. So they've always been there, but now we are able to connect with that frequency. And you start having these wonderful experiences. So that's what this is about. It's being playful and joyful, spending time out in Mother Earth and recognizing that she is amping up. And the other point to mention is that the sun itself has been upgraded. So now we are receiving these massive solar ejections. Just about 10 days ago, we had the biggest solar flare ejection from the sun we've ever had. So when this comes into us, we tend to feel a little bit of inner agitation. And it's really important then to recognize that we need to assimilate that, integrate that energy by going into either a walk in nature or going into a quiet meditative space, grounding the energy in and not worry about it. I'm finding that when I wake up in the morning, most mornings, I feel this vibration inside my body and my whole body is just vibrating. And that could be fearful, but it isn't for me because I know what it is. It's my body's being upgraded. And within 1 minute of just lying there quietly, it subsides. Then I get up and get on with my day. But we are being upgraded through the Schumann resonance of the Earth's upgrade, the heartbeat of the Earth, and through the sun beaming down upon us. So spending time in the sun, consciously connecting, the best time without any shadow of a doubt is at sunrise. And Richard Rudd calls that the Chintamani, the wish-fulfilling jewel, as that first ray of sun breaks the horizon. And so these are these wonderful connections we can now be making in this higher expression, bringing heaven to earth. It's magnificent.
Really wonderful. And we are certainly aware of the past couple of weeks and the feelings of feeling a shift. We can really feel a shift. Seems like every week it feels a little different. And now knowing about the astrology, it makes so much sense. So go easy with ourselves, breathe, stay centered, tune into the energies, and ground your dream for New Eden into the planet. I love that so much. Thank you for sharing. Again, your sessions are so powerful and profound, and they are life-changing, life-clarifying. So I know everyone's going to want a session with you. So sign up for that right here.
I'm
Awesome.
available.
Yes, you are. In fact, you are available pretty much right when people sign up within a week or so,
Yep, yep, yep.
you work hard. You work hard. Thank you for that.
Well, I
Oh,
don't work hard. I work with pleasure because it's what I'm here to do, you know. So that's my approach to my work, is to offer people helpful and support, because people do their own journey, their own healing, and I'm just here to hold that space and point out a few things they probably aren't aware of because of their own blind spots. And that's where the Gene Keys is so great. It just tells you exactly what you need to do.
just tells you. It helps us be crystal clear and make great progress. Again, you do
Exactly.
wonderful play. Thank you so much for this experience today and assisting us. We are feeling quantum and expanded. Thank you.
Exactly. My absolute pleasure. Lovely to be with you again, Lauren. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Bye-bye now.
Bye. This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in Unity Consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.